All right, 97.7 Outlaw Radio FM listeners, you already know what time it is, and right here, right now, we actually have the one and only multi-platinum producer, Talkbox artist, and he is also the creator of the TalkStar, man. I'm telling you, we're going to get into that here briefly in our interview, but right here, right now, Fingazz, also known as Fingadelic, right here, live on the line. How are you doing this evening?
Oh man, I'm doing great. I'm doing great.
And I gotta say, first and foremost, man, I have been a fan of you for a long time, man. So thank you so much in advance for just giving us a bit of your time here this evening.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
But I know you're a busy guy, man, so I'm going to dive right into this interview. But I want to take you back to the very beginning, man, where at an early age you actually played for funk bands, opening up for individuals like Zapp, Roger Troutman, and others. I was wondering if you could tell us a bit more about those days, and of course, what was it like just being able to open up for the late great Roger Troutman?
Oh, that was a crazy experience. Yeah, I played keyboards in a band called Slapback. The early days of getting into funk music, being mentored by Jared Harris, who's an incredible musician, and learned a lot from him. And we had the privilege of being on stage with a lot of heavy hitters, man, like you said, Roger and Zapp, and being able to see them at sound check and seeing how they did set up and did the show. And then I've done shows opening for The Time and Gap Band. So, yeah, I mean, the experience is incredible at a pretty young age, being able to witness all that. I got to go on tour with En Vogue and get kind of a taste of the big tour life, doing shows where we had, Aaliyah and some huge acts where it's a huge, huge experience. There's all those little things I've taken in and built part of my experience as a producer. All the live music experience, I tried to translate that into the music I'm doing now.
And when you were in those funk bands as well, man, like were you doing the Talkbox, or did you actually kind of gradually get into it after seeing Roger perform while on tour?
No, I was doing Talkbox before we played with Roger. We started doing my first funk band experience was a little bit before Slapback, where we were just a bunch of guys that were trying to get into funk music, and we were doing a lot of cover music of all the great funk artists we loved, and we had a lot of requests to do Zapp and Roger songs live, and so that's when I had to discover the Talkbox in order to make that sound. And it was before YouTube. We're talking about like 1990, 91. So there wasn't YouTube and the internet, so you can't just go on there and, hey, how do you play? What is this sound, and how do you play it? There wasn't a resource like that. So it took me some time to figure out what it was and then actually how to use the damn thing. So, it was a process for me to really get into it, and I kind of had to take the long route. But, that made me appreciate it a lot more. And then eventually we're doing covers, more about the Outs or Dance Floor, and we're doing these songs live, and it was kind of something I'd already had a taste of before I got to see Roger, so that made me really appreciate it when I saw them, live. So.
And I also read as well that while you were performing with Slapback at the House of Blues in Hollywood, you were actually noticed by Baby Bash and Kid Frost. I was wondering if you can actually tell our listeners about that life-changing night, and of course, what was it like being recognized by those two legendary individuals within the music industry?
Yeah, that was a crazy night. We had a great show that night, and then I stuck around a little bit afterwards. But I had the flu that night, and I wasn't really trying to hang out for the Two Live Crew show. But pretty soon after we got off stage, and we had used a little Talkbox in the show, and I think we might have done More Bounce to the Ounce, a little bit of it, or some Zapp part of tribute in the show. So Baby Bash, who used to be called Beesh back then, was producing Kid Frost when Hell 8 Freezes Over album. They were right down the street on Sunset at a studio. And Bash came up to me and, was giving me a little props, and he was like, hey, you do studio sessions. We want to get some of that Talkbox on this Kid Frost. And I was hesitant to do it, even though I wasn't really, you know, in the studio. I wasn't producing yet. I wasn't in the kind of the behind the scenes of music yet. So it was a big opportunity. So I had to kind of tuck the flu away and bite the bullet and go for it, you know, and wait for them to do the Two Live Crew show, because they brought Kid Frost up on stage during the Two Live Crew set where they had girls dancing on him and everything. So I had to sit there with the flu and fight it out and wait until they finished, and then finally get to the studio like 2 in the morning. I'm just dying. I feel like shit. And then, you know, we had to wait for the engineer to get there, and they're just hotboxing the whole studio up, and I'm just feeling horrible. But eventually the guy got there, and I got to play Talkbox, and I ended up, you know, producing a little bit on the track and adding like claps and bass line to the beat, and that was my first actual collaboration of anything I've ever done on a major level that got released. Was on that album, a song called Get Down. I think that's what it's called, Get Something. But it was on that Frost album, and then me and Bash, from that point, you know, he started coming out when I was in the Inland Empire in Corona, and he started coming out and bringing Frost sometimes, and we started doing a bunch of records, and that ultimately steered me into doing Chicano rap. You know, he introduced me to Lighter Shade of Brown and a bunch of other people, and it just kind of steered a whole different path for what I was doing.
And also, as well, in the year 2001, you were actually featured on Corrupt's Space Boogie Smoke Odyssey record, man. I was wondering, how did you initially get connected with Corrupt of the Dog Pound? And of course, what was it like just being in the studio and just working on Smoke Odyssey with him?
Well, that's an even longer story. I'll try to shorten it up. Probably earlier, like maybe 99, we had a studio started in Corona, and we were producing a lot of every rapper we could get in our studio, just so I could just build and get my name out there. And you know, working with different people that were out that way, like South Central Cartel, and then we ended up working with the Lowlives from Long Beach, Frank Nitty, who's still my brother to this day, who used to work with Snoop, and he's from Long Beach, and he's connected with the Dog Pound. We ended up somehow getting Corrupt to come by the studio, and he wanted me to prepare 3 songs with choruses already, and he's just going to come in and just drop to him, and then if he liked them, he would use them. And he ended up dropping 2 out of the 3, and including them on the Space Boogie album, but they were bonus tracks. I think they were for like different stores had different bonus tracks. One was called The Life I Live, and I can't remember the other one. But in the process of getting to know Corrupt, we kind of formed a little relationship of like he really liked working there, and in kind of gaining his trust, I had made a track called I Love Cali in the Summertime, had a beat and a chorus on it with my Talkbox, and I thought I'd built up the nerve and the respect level where I could ask Corrupt to show it to Snoop, because I didn't know Snoop at the time, and I thought it would be a huge summer single for Snoop. And when I showed Corrupt, he said, this is going to be for my little brother, who is Roscoe, who just moved out from Philadelphia to California to live with him, 16 years old. And I was going to fight Corrupt on this. I mean, this is a legendary artist, so I just said, yeah, let's go. And he ended up putting his brother Roscoe on it, and he was amazing. So he ended up getting that on a Priority Records compilation called Nothing But a Gangster Party, and they pushed that out to radio as a single in 2000, and that was literally my first radio hit, and it became kind of a West Coast classic. And from that point, Roscoe moved in to the house where we had the studio. We were his legal guardians, and basically got very like close to his family and his mom and Rose, and basically, you know, we kind of had a nice little family-style relationship with Corrupt from that point. So when they asked me to come do that, At It Again, that was the song I'm featured on Talkbox on there, you know, of course, I just rushed out to the studio in L.A. and dropped it. We had DJ Quick in the next room doing a song for him. That was really cool. And then I had Damian Young, Deniza, who was the program director for Power 106 at the time in L.A., and he was producing the record. And it was just a great experience. You know, I was very new to the game, and you know, I'm sitting here in a Larrabee Studios, which is world famous, and I got DJ Quick in the next room, and I'm playing on a Corrupt song, and it was surreal, man. It was crazy.
And also, if I'm not mistaken as well, that song you actually did with young Roscoe, I believe that was actually on the Hollywood Homicide soundtrack as well.
Yeah, it was actually the opening credit song and the closing credit song. They used it twice. They had, you know, Harrison Ford and Josh Hartnett. Pretty cool movie. No Limit, you know, I think was producing the movie, and it definitely was a big thing, man. It was my first big movie placement, licensing, and they used it twice. It was real crazy. So, you know, early blessings. I'm very, very fortunate.
And also, just a few years later, in the year 2005, you were actually the producer of one of my favorite hip-hop records probably of all time, man, which was Lil Rob's 1218 Part 1 album, where you actually produced 11 out of the 13 songs. I was always wondering, man, how did yourself and Lil Rob actually get connected? And of course, what was it like just working on that legendary album with him in the studio?
I mean, that's one of my favorite experiences, making the song you're talking about, "Summer Nights," which was the big single from that album. I had been doing a lot of, you know, the Chicano rap kind of artists that were making some noise, and it kind of just hit the ear of, you know, Lil Rob at the time was, I could only equate it to saying he was the Snoop Dogg of Chicano rap. He had this huge loyal fan base. He just really was what had created a movement that where he was on a certain level in that genre of music. And I really wanted to work with him, and I knew that, you know, I could give him a real solid hit. And it turned out that I had a couple successful songs that just made our paths cross. And so when he first started coming to the studio, he only wanted to do oldie sample flips, where he'd bring in a song from, you know, the Shy Lights or whoever it was, I can't remember, but he would bring something on a CD, and he'd want me to chop it up and make an oldie beat out of samples. And I could do that all day, but, you know, I'm a musician, so, and I don't mind respecting the classic artists and sampling their music, because they're going to get the money for it, but, you know, at the end of the day, like, what if we make something original that gives you the feeling of an oldie, but it's original, you know, and we can get some of that money. So I had done about 12 of these songs with him, and we started building a cool working relationship where he started trusting me. We were making some really great records with the sample chop style. And then before he came into this one session, I prepared a beat where I made something that sounded like chopped samples, but it was all original, chopped little pitched vocals and had guitar samples that I played, and it really just felt like we had sampled something. But then I added kind of the low end that music at that era had, with the big 808 subs, and then, you know, it just had a feel I thought would have fit in the market and stood out. And I just asked him when he showed up at the studio, like, let me play you something before you show me whatever sample you brought me or song to sample. Let me play you something I made that's original, and I want to see if you want to, you know, maybe we dig it on this one. So I played it for him, and he just got fired up. He just really, I could see him. His wheels were turning. And let me backtrack. He really didn't like to write in the studio. He would always take the beat we made. He would sit with me and make the beat, make sure he got it the way he wanted. And then he'd take it home, and the next week or two, he'd come back with something written, and we would track it. And it was a process like that, where he didn't write in the studio. We never finished a record in a day. So this time, we played this Summer Nights beat, and he just his wheels started turning. He had brought his uncle up with him that was an oldies band singer, and he let him go in the booth and try to sing on it. And that's where, if you hear in the background, it sounds like a sample in the background singing, "Summer Night, Summer Night." That's his uncle. That was the original hook. And I told him, I said, this is awesome. We're going to make this part of the beat so that it sounds like we sampled something, because he's so authentic. But that's not the hook. I said it needs to be something poppier, something more catchy, with more words that tells a story. And then I started just freestyling, just summer days just sitting around, but when the sun goes down. And I just kind of came out, the first part of the hook came out just spontaneously. And then I looked over and he had already was on the table with the pad out writing. I'd never seen him write in the studio, and it was just kind of a magical thing that, oh, we got fire cracking right here. And he finished writing the whole song. We finished the entire song in about 4 hours, and it was tracked and done. And it was the first time that ever happened, and I thought, like, wow, maybe we got something here. And, yeah, it was just kind of one of those spontaneous magic moments in the studio, and people liked it. So I guess that's proof that's when you make good stuff, is when it's that spontaneous vibe. So it felt good.
And I have to ask as well, man, it's pertaining to Summer Nights, man, because, you know, in my personal opinion, that song is still one of the hottest songs of the summer, man. I don't know any hip-hop fan that doesn't play that at least a few times every single summer. So when you guys first finished that and tracked it and everything, and you sat back and listened to it, did you think it would be as big as it is today? Because that song's monumental.
I actually, that's one of the few songs I knew in my heart that was a smash. I actually was fighting with his label for them to test it at radio because I believed in it so much. And they didn't really believe in it that much. You know, radio costs a lot of money to go and really, you know, pull the trigger. You know, it costs a great deal of money for a label. So they were hesitant, and they wanted a little bit of, you know, some kind of confidence and belief in it. I happened to go to, once again, to Damian Young, who is the program director for Power, and I did another Talkbox feature for him up in the Hollywood studio. And I happened to, at the end of the session, said, hey, I have about 6 songs that I'm really happy with, and I'd love to just play them in your studio, you know, play them in the big speakers and see what you think. It's your professional opinion. And he's like, oh, for sure, let's take a break and we'll listen to some stuff before I left. And we played the songs, and, you know, the way it usually goes, you get to the first chorus, you skip it. That's how I do when I listen to people's music. I get the vibe, get to the first chorus, skip. You like it, I get the vibe. But he played about 5 songs that way, played them through, first chorus, skipped it, gave me a quick little, you know, his opinions, and then moved on. But then when Summer Nights played, he gets to the chorus, and he played the whole thing through, and he started turning it up. And I'm like, wow, okay, he likes this one. And this is the guy who was deciding, you know, what's on the biggest LA station at the time in hip-hop. So I was like, wow, this is a good sign. Well, he really likes this. And then he after the song was done, I said, man, you can go to the next one. No, I'm going to play that again. Played it again from the top, turned the speakers all the way up. And at this point, when he was playing it super loud, I stepped out of the studio so I could talk, and I called the president of Rob's label. I won't put his name out there, but and I said, you know where I'm at? I'm in the studio with Demiza, and he's playing Summer Nights for the second time and turning it up, and he says it's a smash. And he was just like, are you serious? I said, yeah. I mean, he's playing it all over again and turned the volume up, and the whole room's loving it. He's like, wow, maybe I'll test it in, Texas. He had a couple PDs down in Texas. He could do some kind of testing, and they tested it in the market, and it tested really well, and they just started throwing money at it and really working the record, and, you know, ended up getting like 6,900 something spins a week at its peak, and was doing really well. So that one, people really liked that one, and that's the one record I really felt, this one, I would put money on that one. That one felt like a hit, just because of the process of making the record. It just felt magical. I felt like something happened when we made that record. So definitely one of my favorites, man. Definitely one of my favorite moments making music.
And also as well, speaking of creating amazing things, man, you are also the creator of the TalkStar, an actual self-powered Talkbox. I was wondering if you can actually tell our listeners a bit more about this amazing product, and of course, like, what made you actually decide to design this instrument, and of course, where can we actually snag one today?
Yeah, well, I'll try to keep this story short too. The TalkStar is, I obviously didn't invent Talkbox. Unsure who really did. Of course, Talkbox has been around. There's Talkboxes you can buy at the store, like a Guitar Center right now. the only thing is Talkbox was designed and came out as a guitar effect. But then with Roger Troutman, and, well, initially Stevie Wonder put keyboards through it. And I think the story goes that Roger saw Stevie doing it with a keyboard and started experimenting himself. And then took it to a whole nother level and really made it a thing, you know? Like, you know, T-Pain hearing auto-tune on Cher and then discovering it and then taking it to a whole nother level. It was the same kind of thing where he's like, I'm going to take this thing that was meant for guitar, but I'm going to put a keyboard through it, and I'm going to make it my thing, my iconic sound. Of course, everybody like me who plays Talkbox trying to be like Roger, it was inspired by what Roger did with the Talkbox. Being a Talkbox player, being inspired by Roger Troutman, I've been playing Talkbox since we talked earlier in the interview, since 1991. It's a long time. I've made it part of my sound. I've toured around the world. I've been to China, Japan, Korea, you know, all around the U.S. performing my Talkbox music. And in the process of traveling, especially overseas, with a big, bulky setup, because these little pedals made for guitar cannot get loud enough to do that Roger sound. They just can't, especially for a live show. Maybe in the studio, if you turn the microphone up, you can get a decent sound. People are doing it. But I wanted something for a live Talkbox player to be able to just have a box that had the amp built in, had a loud, crisp, clean sound that I could just put in and just plug in one chord, turn it on, and go. And there was nothing out there like that. So I happen to be fortunate enough to have a father who is an audio engineer, who was a pioneer in hi-fi car audio going back to the 70s. And I said, hey, you know, you built amplifiers, you know speakers. This Talkbox thing I do, this is really simple stuff. Could you build me a Talkbox that has the power and the right speaker, and then for me explaining how Talkbox worked and us collaborating over about 8 years, we came up with this instrument called the TalkStar, which was designed really for my own use. And once I finished it, I thought, well, this is great. I bet there could be some other people that would benefit, that are Talkboxers trying to do this Roger thing, that would want this. And I thought, like, I'll put it up there and we'll see, we could sell to a couple people that would be interested. And I had no idea that this people from all over the world were enthusiastic about this sound and really passionate about playing this instrument. And, built this website out to incorporate selling this product. And me with being a full-time producer and not as much performer, but, I'm in the studio a lot. It was really hard for me to juggle building this manufacturing company. I'm getting parts from all over the world, and I have companies that are building sub-assemblies, and I have a factory where we're putting them together, and I'm shipping them out, and I'm, overseeing this whole company. And it's so rewarding because I'm seeing people from 40 plus countries buying this thing. And I've created a Talkbox masterclass, which nobody has done. Put all of the knowledge of how to play Talkbox, all the tips and tricks and all the nuances, all the patches for the keyboards. All of this is online on the website too. And it's like, I give people that course. They get the Talkbox. Not only do they have the best Talkbox to do this, but they have a course that teaches all the stuff that I know, that I've learned over 25 years. And it's just building a kind of a movement and a family. And that's what TalkStar is right now. We started in 2018, and we sold, I can't even say how many thousands, like several thousands, and like I said, 40 plus countries. Got Kazakhstan, I've got TalkStar players. I've got players in Czech Republic and Chile and Taiwan, and I mean, I could name crazy countries that most people would never visit, and there's Talkbox players that are using TalkStar, and it's really one of the coolest things I've ever done because, it's like this huge family of people that are passionate about what Roger started, and we're just trying to continue the legacy and give people an instrument that was specifically designed for this, that no other company had paid any attention to, and we're the ones spit, and he's passionate too, and he's a great Talkbox player, and he's got his electro spit, which is awesome too. And we're both kind of simultaneously building these companies and products that are supporting an entire movement of Talkbox that's having a huge resurgence, going to Bruno Mars' 24 Karat Magic, with Mr. Talkbox playing that amazing intro on that song, all Talkbox. And then now we've got Khalid with Talkbox in the song. We've got Levitating with Dua Lipa's got Talkbox on it. There's this crazy resurgence of Talkbox since it's been dead since maybe Teddy Riley in the 90s, and kind of having a great comeback, and it's just fun to be on the wave, the front of the wave of this thing. So pretty cool.
And I gotta say as well, like, this thing is absolutely phenomenal, man. Like, I was looking at pictures of it and whatnot, and I love how it's see-through. You can actually see what goes into it. It's not just a black box that you kind of see like in an airplane or something. You can actually see what it does while it's operating and when you're using it, man, and it glows different colors. I gotta say, man, this is definitely taking Talkbox to a whole new level.
Well, we did that on purpose, because we wanted to show the high quality engineering that goes into it. I'm proud of what my dad and I designed, and it's kind of a legacy thing for me and my pop. So we were really proud of what went into this thing, and we wanted to show it off so you could see, like you said, what goes into it, and then also having the interactive lights that make you not only like a Talkbox player, but you're a rock star and TalkStar.
But also as well, before we go back to the music side of things here, I actually read that on IMDb that in 2017, sir, you actually played a getaway driver in a movie called Colt 22: Call to Action. I was wondering, what made you decide to venture into the acting side of the entertainment industry, and of course, what was it like partaking in that role?
Well, that's on IMDb as a music video. That Colt 22 is actually a very, very cinematic music video that I produced for a rock project I did. I actually do rock music. I do every genre of music, but I did this project, Colt 22, and I actually got some really big syncs. Like, it was in the show Billions on Showtime, one of our songs, and I did this fun rock project just to try to do something different. I haven't really expanded as a singer, as even though I've done hooks where I sing with my real voice, but Colt 22 is just kind of like getting back to some of my roots, where like I was a fan of some rock when I was growing up, and I thought this would be kind of fun to just see what I could do with a rock project, and that's what Colt 22 was, and that IMDb listing is for my part in a video. We had a bunch of really great stunt people, and my wife was actually in it as one of the three ninja girls, and we got trained by real Marvel stunt people, and everybody was. It's super entertaining, and anybody wants to check it out, you look up Colt 22 and Call to Action. That's a really fun video where half of my time is spent in film. I'm doing a lot of scoring and for commercial and film, and so that is kind of the people that I've met along the way and getting into the film world. I got to pull a lot of favors and get some really high-level film and stunt people involved in this video, and it was just something really cool to do, and that was definitely fun. As far as acting, I'm not spending any time trying to act. That was just for the music video, and I'll toy around with it for a video, but not spending too much time acting in any way at all.
And also as well, July 5th of 2019, you were actually featured on Machine Gun Kelly's song titled Burning Memories. I was wondering, how did yourself and MGK actually get connected? And of course, what was it like implementing your Talkbox sound actually on his record?
Oh, that was really cool. My good friend, Fingazz from New Jersey, believe it or not, way over in New Jersey. He's a world-famous barber. And we've been friends for a long time since I produced a group called T-Weapons out of New York. And he was part of their group as a manager. And we've become friends because of that experience producing those guys. Super talented group out of Brooklyn. And me and Fingazz have kept in touch, and we've always supported each other. And he happened to be his barber, MGK's barber. Whenever he was on the East Coast, he'd be cutting his hair, and they built kind of a relationship. And he kept bragging about me, and he kept telling him about me as a producer, and then telling him about the Talkbox, this and that. And then he, one time he asked MGK's bandmates, Slim and Bass, his bass player and keyboard player, to come over, because they're not too far from my studio, just come over and meet me and vibe when he was in town. And we all hung out in my studio, and those are great guys. I still am great friends with those guys, and they just knew they were producing this record for NGK's album, and they thought it would be really cool to put Talkbox, because I'd shown them my Talkbox and the music, and I actually was trying to give them a Talkbox to use on the tour. So we had built this relationship, and when they were doing this Burning Memories record, they called me just spontaneously, like, hey, can you come out to Sherman Oaks? We got a record cooking that's fire. We just feel like this bridge could have Talkbox. So I came out, MGK was there. They were trying to come up with what I was going to say, and in my mind, I had already written something, but I didn't want to step on, their process. I just met, Kelly, so I didn't want to, jump in too early. But, they were kind of stuck, like, what do we say? And I'd already heard his verse and the chorus, so I knew what the song was vibing on. And I said, hey, I got a little idea, and I showed them, and they're like, put it down. That's fire, put it down. So I did this whole bridge, tracked it over there at their spot. They were vibing with it, and it made the album. They got Little Skies on that song, and it became a great record, man. Really, really happy to be on that album and that song, for sure.
And also as well, immediately following this interview, I'm actually going to be playing one of your brand new singles, actually titled Feel, featuring Sergio. I was wondering, for the listeners that haven't already heard this amazing single, what can we actually expect from it when I play it right here live on 97.7 FM here in Canada?
Oh, your ass going to get up to dance. That's a funky record. It's just a groove. It's one of those grooves that if you don't dance, your head's going to be jerking for sure. It's sexy. I think the girls will love it. We're just praising beautiful women, and and the vibe is just funky. If you like funk and deep grooves, this one just has that head jerking funk. My boy Sergio jumped on there. He actually forced me to finish this record. I only had a verse and a chorus, and it's been sitting for years. My boy Sergio is an amazing Talkbox player, too, from Sydney, Australia. And he came to my studio when he was in L.A. A few years back, and he said, man, what are you doing with this record? And I said, well, it's great, but I don't know. I'm not inspired to put it out. He's like, let me jump on it, and let's finish this shit. I said, all right, you're forcing me. Let's get it. And I heard his verse, and it pumped me up, and then the bridge came out, and there it is. We put it out for Valentine's last year, just for the ladies, and it's it's a funky joint, man. I'm real happy with that single, so I hope everybody enjoys it.
But I have to ask as well, man, what is next for yourself, Fingazz, man? Because I do know that you have such a lengthy career within the music industry, man, and your roots run so deep, so I know we only touch base on a sliver of your career this evening, but what is next for you? Is there anything we missed, anything else you still want to talk about or promote? Let's have you here live on the radio station airwaves.
Yeah, definitely. I've spent years developing an artist that's signed to my label, Elite Frequency Group, Alan Paris. This artist is like Michael Jackson. I hate to compare him to The Weeknd, but some people will hear similarity. But also Lenny Kravitz. There's this whole vibe. This artist, I've actually worked with him for many years, but we're really putting out his new project. We have a single out called Strange Summer right now with an awesome video. Everybody can check that out. Alan Paris, Strange Summer. And we have an amazing project, a whole album called Glow that should be dropping in the next couple months. And then we have another album that we've already got in the works that's more than half done. That's an R&B album, Untitled, with some incredible music. This guy is the future, and I will back up more than anybody I work with. This is the cat you should be checking for. Definitely check out Alan Paris. I've got more Talkbox music. I'm working on another classics album where I'll remake my favorite classic joints with Talkbox. That should be coming out also probably before Christmas. And there's too much other stuff to probably fit in. I don't want to take away from Alan Paris, who really I think is the main thing I would love everybody to take some time and check out. definitely check out the Alan Paris stuff. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming.
But also, Fingazz, this is the time in the interview, man, that I give a chance for the individual that slides into the radio station airwaves. Just a chance to give, like, shoutouts to whomever they want to give shoutouts to. But most of all, man, your social media handles. That way our listeners can follow you and stay updated on everything Fingazz if they're not already doing so.
Oh, that'd be great. I appreciate that. Yeah, definitely shout out to wifey out there, Alanis, a.k.a. Coco Ono. Her single's about to drop too. I do some music with my wife too that is really cool music, and we have a great video that's dropping for a song called Flipside, and so you can check that out. It's going to hit YouTube probably next week, so check that out. That's some awesome stuff. And then Alan Paris, shout out to Alan Paris, and my partner Malachi, Elite Frequency Group, and my social media. You can find me at Fingadelic Everything. Basically, all my Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all that is Fingadelic. My website is fingadelic.com or fingazz.com with 2 Z's. Get you there too. And if you're interested in checking out the TalkStar, just go to thetalkstar.com and take a look at that. You'll be able to check that thing out. See the awesome demo we have. We have a video called The Test on the website, or it's on YouTube, and that's Byron Chambers, a.k.a. Mr. Talkbox, trying it for the first time in Nashville. He's the one that played the Bruno Mars 24 Karat Magic intro, and it's so iconic right now. And he was the first one to ever try the thing. We flew out there and let him try it first, and you could really see the reaction of somebody who's an experienced Talkbox player really try this thing and see the reaction. It definitely is. You couldn't pay for it. It was an incredible thing to capture on video. So if you're interested in the Talkbox, if you're interested in Talkbox in general about learning how to play it, we have a whole course on how to do it. I teach, and definitely something fun. If you always wanted to sing, but you're not a singer, but you can play a simple melody on keyboards, you can do Talkbox. Check it out at thetalkstar.com.
And I gotta say, Fingazz, thank you so much again, man, for just providing us with a bit of your time this evening. Thank you as well for creating amazing classics that all of us still enjoy today, and also in the future as well, because I know you aren't even close to being done, man. You most definitely have a lot of bangers still on the way, and I'm looking forward to hearing every single one that does come out.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you for having me, Immortal. I appreciate you, man.
You are most certainly welcome, Fingazz. Thank you so much again, man, and definitely have yourself a wonderful night.
Yeah, you too, bro.